Everybody ready?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the Cortez City Council Workshop Special Meeting. Today is Tuesday, November 9th, 2021. It's 5:30 p.m. The first order on the agenda is the review of community support grants. So we have, looks like 17 nonprofit organizations in this area seeking community support grants. So we'll go over these one at a time and discuss the ask and we'll discuss the particulars of the request. So, is everyone ready?
Can you see the screen? Can everyone see the screen all right?
Yeah, I can see it.
Or do you want it bigger?
Looks good for me. I can see
Okay.
it. Yeah.
How about David?
Yeah. Dave, can you see that screen? Can you read it?
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Looks good.
Okay.
Okay. The first applicant is the Cancer Resource Alliance of Montezuma and Dolores Counties. And this group is requesting $5,000. They had applied, I believe, last year, and we awarded $2,500 to that request. And the mission of this organization is to help residents of Montezuma and Dolores counties with costs associated with cancer diagnosis. And the funds will be used for grants up to $500 to individuals in Montezuma and Dolores counties with a cancer diagnosis for assistance in related medical and non-medical expenses. And so last year, the Pretty in Pink fashion show was able to, or they didn't have, because of the COVID-19, they didn't have their fashion show, so they lost considerable amount of money in contributions. So they were asking us to keep that in mind. Are there any questions from the council?
I guess I have a general question. Are we wanting to focus these things like to the city of Cortez? You know, so if you look at the geographical location of where funds are expended, 43% go to Cortez. And that's roughly. So I don't know if that was our logic behind last year of giving them half of what they've asked for.
I would agree there. I do think we need to focus our efforts to the city of Cortez.
Does anybody recall if they requested funds from any other towns or the Dolores County to support this fund? I don't recall. I don't recall those being in there.
In 2020, the city of Cortez granted them $2,500 in the community grant, and the Cortez Retail Enhancement Program provided radio advertising for 2019 Pretty in Pink fundraiser, and will provide the same assistance in 2021.
Okay.
I have to say that I think that this organization is one of those organizations that sort of fills the gap in individual needs, and I know 43% is not 50, but I think they do really important work. I mean, my recommendation, I think, would be to keep it the same as what we did last year, to kind of start with. And I know, I guess, just kind of a pulse check with everybody. I wasn't here to be a part of this last year, but it seems like we kind of made some initial suggestions, jotted those down, and then kind of went back and said, this is, we're under by or we're over by X number of dollars. Which do we need to potentially reevaluate, either up or down? So,
I agree. I think process-wise, I think that's a good way for us to get a lot closer. The one other thing we haven't mentioned in our, at least in the public meeting, is that our total budget for 2022 is $36,000 for the community support. Whether that's now through this program or if we hold some money back to save for later in the year, but that's the 36,000 is the budget number.
I might add that the budget we have for this is about half of what the ask is. So we have to consider that. It would be nice if we could award the full amount to each entity, but we can't. We just don't have it in our bankroll. So, and I agree with Matt. It's a good organization. If you know anyone that has had cancer, there's a huge expense involved in it, and I'd kind of like to look at what we did last year, the $2,500.
Yeah, and I meant with like the 43% to imply like funding half instead of whole, because I wish we could give them all. But I think last year our approach was like, which ones do we want to fully fund, and then can we do half funds for the rest? I can't remember.
And last year, we had talked about a focus on kind of community services, and sort of as Matt was saying with that, Councilperson Keith Favre was saying with that one, we talked about kind of the things that are filling the gaps in our community, the organizations that really are doing work that help the people of Cortez that government can't really do or isn't really doing, and that, like, for instance, like the homeless shelter, the things that we want to fund that help our community run.
Any more input? Questions?
I'm good with 25.
Okay.
Likewise.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. The second applicant is the Communities That Care of Montezuma County.
Mayor, I'm going to recuse myself because I'm a participant of that coalition, so I will step away.
See, under the list of board directors, my name is listed also.
Your name is listed also.
So I will
You'll
recuse
join me.
myself.
Okay.
I'll read the item. See, CTC, Communities That Care of Montezuma County. The purpose of the requested funds is to promote the positive youth development in our community by employing a young person to maintain our youth activity calendar, which lists positive local opportunities for middle and high school age youth in safe environments. In addition to keeping the calendar up to date with youth-friendly activities in Montezuma County, the youth will promote the calendar to the community at community events and through local publications and flyers. And see, they're asking $3,463.20. And let's see. Looking for the. And I guess I think that's to support the positive youth development, and they have it itemized, the total request, or 4 hours a week, total request. So, are there any input on that?
I think I do think that's an excellent program. I did have one question just about the coalition versus some of their constituent members also applying for the grant. And we do, at least as part of our granting program, we have had a $5,000 maximum, and my question was just about kind of applying individually as well as a coalition too. So I just wanted to hear from some of the rest of the board what they thought on that.
That's one of the notes I took too, was that it looked like it was kind of an odd amount. And then when you drill down a little bit as well, and this is just kind of a general question as we go along, but I see that pretty much 100% of that amount is towards a salary. Hiring a young person to maintain the youth activity calendar. So the general question would be, are we considering funding positions of any type? Because that would looks like the full funding for that position, potentially?
Right.
Nope, 11%, sorry.
No, at full, the 11% is just an indirect rate
Oh, got it, yep.
for like overhead expenses, I don't know. And Robert, are you referring to like SCYC applying separately for a grant, or?
Yeah, SCYC and Four Corners Child Advocacy are both part of that coalition, and then also applied for separate grants as well.
Okay.
Worley, any input?
Yeah, I was going to say agree with Matt there, because when I glance through this, whatever, it just looks like a position, what I'm looking for, and I didn't have any money for them marked down for me.
What if as a placeholder we put an asterisk and put $1,500 or something like that, just to start? And then, of course, we can come back and
Okay,
check.
that sounds good to me.
Otherwise, I don't think we're going to get through all the
Yeah.
things on our agenda.
Okay. Community connections. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. Okay, the next applicant is the Community Connections. And they're requesting $5,000. See, their goal is to create opportunities for children and adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities to lead healthy and fulfilling lives within a 5-county region of southwest Colorado. It's Archuleta, Dolores, La Plata, Montezuma, and San Juan counties. And the purpose of their requested funds is to provide eligibility and enrollment, case management, and direct services to City of Cortez residents with intellectual and developmental disabilities such as autism, cerebral palsy, and Down syndrome. So it would include young children with delays to increase the rate of development, families with children with disabilities, and adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities to achieve health, stability, and financial success. And it says 100% of that would be for the City of Cortez. And their, like I said, the ask is
What I had was
$5,000.
2,500 like we did before.
Okay, that sounds good.
Real quick question about our connection with them. We had some sort of agreement before with like Parks and Rec for Community Connections folks, right?
Right,
And then that went away this past year, is that true?
I believe so.
Okay.
Okay, so the note here says that Kelly sent us is through October, the city we paid them $18,000 because we contracted them to clean the parks during COVID and stuff. Okay.
And that has expired, that contract with the Community Connections?
Sorry, Mayor, what was the question?
They're using the Community Connections members to clean parks and pick up trash.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
So, yeah, so we employ them, but they're asking for a grant on top of employment, so.
Is that the employment ongoing, or was that like a one-time contract during COVID?
No, it's ongoing.
It is ongoing, okay.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
seasonal, of course, but it's ongoing.
Of course.
Okay, moving on to the next community radio.
And I work there, so I do need to recuse myself from this one.
Okay. Okay, community radio project, also known as KSJD Community Radio and the Sunflower Theater. They're asking for $2,000. See, the goal is to deliver quality local, regional, and international professional journalism to Cortez residents at least 360 days a year by way of KSJD's broadcast signals and via social media and digital platforms at least 260 weekdays a year. And the objectives is to support the professional local news production at their studios on Market and Main, support KZET and KSJD transmitters, support the FCC requirements, national news, deferred maintenance, emergent upgrades, digital social media platforms, and support the membership with National Federation of Community Broadcasters. And see, the ask is for the news development request funding for the city to partially defray costs in GL 5700 program acquisition production budgeted in 2021 for $6,675.84 and anticipating a 3% increase to $6,876. Any questions or comments on that?
Okay, I didn't have any marked down for them. I didn't have any funding.
Okay.
Unless somebody can convince me on it.
Well, we did 1,500 last year, but I can't remember what they asked for. So should we continue with 1,500, or should we do the full, or half at 1,000? I don't know.
I'd be open to either one of those. I think that one of the things that they do is offer it, basically a free service for the entire community. And, emergency situations or weather or any of those sorts of things, anyone can tune in. So I do feel like it's a public service organization, even though it might not seem like it.
I had written down for mine 1,500, same as last year.
Okay.
1,500 sounds good. Okay. Cortez Area Chamber of Commerce. See, they're requesting $10,000. It's a larger sum than we're used to considering. Let's see, at one point in time, the city did provide a significant level of support to the chamber, but in recent years, the support has been as low as 0 to a high of $1,500 in a given year. And the purpose of the funds is $2,500 for operational support and staffing, $2,500 for technology upgrades, $2,500 for business training, and there's a list of workshops, $1,500 to relaunch Young Professionals Program, and $1,000 for a business scholarship fund. So, council, what do you think?
I would support the Business Resource Center, because that's going to be in the city of Cortez and can support our businesses, and the relaunching of the Young Professionals Program. So that totals 4,000, but.
I would not want to support the 1,500 relaunch because
Okay.
there's already, so there's definitely the, like, Leadership Montezuma that is kind of, there's a fund for Leadership Montezuma that exists, that perhaps there's some alignment that could be found there, and that
Okay.
could be an aspect of Leadership Montezuma.
I'm a little curious as to how they got to where they are now, and why they're asking for such a large sum.
Councilmember Rainey, Mayor, if I can jump in on this. Mr. Black actually asked me about this before he submitted this for this grant, and my counsel to him was, ask for what you want and ask for what you need. So, you know, whether the council grants all that or not, that's up to the council, but I'm not going to point at them. I'm going to point at me, as I was the one that recommended that they ask for what it was, for what they needed.
I do think that the city being a member of the chamber is important. I think if you look at most other municipalities, the city is usually, cities or counties, wherever, are usually a member of their local chamber for the, but I don't know that other than supporting maybe a specific program, I don't know that membership is really a fit for the grant, for this grant process as a whole. I think that's something that we, as a council, need to talk about rejoining our chamber. But I think at least for this, I would support the business resource, specifically support the Business Resource Center. I think that's something that's downtown in Cortez. That's something that makes sense. It's a community service in the same way that we're talking about with some of the other organizations.
Well, I'm not sure I agree, Robert. I mean, these are all important grants, and I think proportionally we should view each one of these, and I think that's somewhat exorbitant given the rest of the request.
Speak in the microphone.
I'm sorry. I was saying I think it's a bit exorbitant given the other request, and again, I'm curious as to where they got, how they got to where they are right now, and asking for so much capital. Just seems a little exorbitant.
Can we leave this line blank for now? And can we leave this specific line blank for now and come back?
Okay.
Let's leave that in.
I don't know what to do. I'll just leave it blank. Okay.
Okay. Cortez Farmers Market. They're requesting $2,500. Last year we awarded half of that, $1,250. See, the purpose of the funds is to cover basic operations, expenses including personnel, advertising, supplies, as well as money to help support local musicians that play at the market. If the COVID-19 restrictions continue or increase, funds will also be used for additional expenses to keep the market operating in a safe manner. Increased staffing needs for our new curbside pickup service and supplies for sanitizing and PPE if the COVID continues. Comments, questions from the council?
I had 1,000 written down for them.
So I think one of the things that I'm kind of disappointed that they didn't put in here, but I know for a fact that they do, and I think most people don't, is that they have an EBT card program at farmers market, and people don't really see that as kind of a, whatever, fourth option for fresh produce that then turns around and supports local farmers. So I sort of, I don't entirely see it as a closed loop, but when you have people spending money that goes directly in the pocket of the farmers, and they get produce using EBT, I mean, I think $12.50 at least would be my thought.
I would agree with Matt, and they did mention SNAP in their application, but yeah, I think we should definitely fund it. It is, I think a lot of times people don't think of a farmer's market as a community service in the same way they do as a food bank, but it is serving a very similar purpose, and also has the added economic development benefit of activating downtown on Saturdays throughout the summer and fall.
Yeah, I would agree with the $12.50 amount. They have a new executive director, and she's really on looking to increase the exposure and attract new vendors, and she's been talking about expanding the area to have food trucks in the area, and an item which we'll be discussing sometime down in the future. So yeah, I would advocate for that half the amount.
I had written down $12.50. I would also like to see the farmers market do a little bit of more advertising and outreach about the EBT opportunities. More of just a statement, but I also had $12.50 there.
Okay. Next applicant, the Cortez Water Dragon Swim Team.
So when I was reading through this, I definitely thought it would be more of just like a project of the city rather than a request of, like a grant request, because it's a asset that's used by more than just the Cortez Water Dragons. So I feel like it makes sense for us to just have it as something we as the city do, not having to be funded through the grant program.
And I had a similar thought that it's for equipment in a city facility that I do think we should support. There is the benefit, and as they mentioned, of being able to bring in meats, which is a benefit to the community. It's a benefit to the economy in Cortez and in Montezuma County. But I did have a question about just we sort of would be buying something for ourselves there, an equipment for the city. So I did have a question and wanted to check in with our city manager about our options on that.
Well, you're absolutely right, and that would be just about the amount as well. I was told by the contact for the Swim Dragons that they have another grant for that. But yeah, in effect, this would wash that grant that they have. So that's just about the amount they're spending to put to have us put new swim blocks in. There's nothing wrong with that if the council chooses, but it does have an appearance.
Because the new swim blocks would be the city's property.
Correct.
Okay, so could we afford to pay for upgrading those out of the Parks and Rec budget?
We could, although we did not budget for that specifically. So
Okay.
If that was the case this year, we would not be doing that.
When do they want them by?
They need them by the spring because they want to. They have a couple of really big swim meets coming in. That's why the impetus for the new swim blocks is they need them to get us up to whatever standard that would be, so they can compete at a little higher level and a broader level. So it's very good for us. Our blocks are out of date, and frankly, there's some real work that needs to be done there. Good, I'm glad that they actually brought this up because we were not aware how out of date we were.
So can we upgrade that without it going through this grant process, is I guess is my question, in time?
Yes, I believe that that would still happen with or without this.
Okay,
And so, but, you know, of course, like I said, there's only that appearance, but I don't really think that they overlap.
okay.
Okay. So we'll just leave that one blank.
Okay.
Okay. Next applicant is the.
What did you decide on that one? On the swim team?
Blank for now.
So wait, can I just clarify? So would those be taken care of before the spring? Like, could we have them taken care of before the spring?
Yeah, they're in process right now. They've already done some work on it, and Mark Boblet and his staff are well on the way for this. There's some concrete work that needs to be done and some cutting and so on, but I believe some of that's already in progress.
Okay. Thank you.
Next applicant is the Dolores Watershed Resilient Forest Collaborative.
And Mayor, I'm gonna recuse myself from this discussion because I've been a contract employee for them before.
Okay, so noted. The acronym is DWRF, DWRF. Let's see, they're asking $5,000. And the mission statement is to promote forest, community, and watershed resilience through collaboration.
In looking at their application, I don't see the amount of work that they're doing in the city of Cortez. I think they're a very Montezuma County focused and Dolores County focused organization, and I think that maybe asking for granting from the counties would be a more appropriate, more appropriate funder.
Yeah. Looks like 25% is allocated for Cortez, 55 Montezuma County, 25% for other Dolores County.
So I read the same thing that you just read, Mike, and I think given that, I would feel comfortable with either donating like 1,000 or 1,250 to show that we do, you know, I mean, if 25% really is within the city of Cortez, I would be okay with 25% of the request, personally, because I do think that we all benefit, whether we live in the city of Cortez or the county, which is my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with Matt. I think the watersheds are important for, it just doesn't, the watershed doesn't just go to Cortez, it goes to the counties, and it's geographical. So I'd agree with half the amount there.
I'd be comfortable with that as well.
Half or 25%?
Yeah.
Oh, I said 25.
25%, yeah, 25%.
Okay. Okay.
That's $100.
Good. Say $100? Sorry, I can't hear you. I'm being too old.
Do you need one of the ears? Okay.
Okay. Next applicant is the Four Corners Child Advocacy Center. They're asking for $5,000. Last year, we awarded $5,000. Mission statement is to strengthen our community's response to child abuse and neglect through prevention, intervention, education, and advocacy. The purpose of the funds is to request funds to support our forensic interviewing response. The forensic interviews are the cornerstone of a child abuse investigation. Effective child protection and subsequent prosecution are a gateway to services for the child and family, and may be the beginning of the road toward healing for many families and children.
So for this application, I'm always impressed because they do a very thorough job, and this work is unique to this area, and I think it's very important that we fund them at the full amount.
Yeah,
I think I would agree with that.
I agree to
I would
find
agree as
the
well,
full
too.
amount.
And I think with the pandemic, that they're busier than ever, and, you know, things are harder right now for children, so.
Yeah, I agree with the full amount, and I don't see no problem on that one.
Thank you. Okay, next applicant is the Four Corners Community Band, FCCB. They're requesting $500. And their request is for general operations, especially the Four Corners Community Band Director Honorarium. 65% of the funds would be allocated for the city of Cortez and 35% for Montezuma County. And they've broken it down to retain a high-quality music director, purchase one music stand dolly at $275, purchase a refurbished flute, and have a reserve of 1 year's operating expenses. Any comments, council?
I would support their request for $500. I think that their impact, again, is pretty broad, not just the people who are members, but people who come and listen, and 500's not that much.
Yeah, I'm not asking for much.
Yeah, I would agree as well. It's a pretty modest request, and it does seem like they do a lot with a very small budget as well, so.
I agree.
I agree with the full amount.
500.
Yep. Okay, next applicant is Hospice of Montezuma County Incorporated. They're asking $2,000. Last year we allocated $1,500. The purpose of the funding is to request support for staff time needed to enhance community education, physician outreach, to seek out additional funding to be able to continue offering the resources we are uniquely positioned to offer. There's a tremendous lack of counseling and mental health support in our area, especially those who do not have the means to pay.
I don't see no problem with that amount for hospice. They do a lot for the community, the people.
Yeah.
It's a project I wouldn't want to do.
Yeah, I'll also advocate for them being funded at the full amount. They are pretty much the only free grieving service. They provide free grief counseling. Oh my gosh, I can't talk this evening. To this community, and as someone who works in suicide prevention, having somewhere to send families and survivors of suicide loss, I think that they provide a very unique and valuable service.
Okay, I advocate for the full amount also.
I agree.
Okay, thank you. Next applicant is the Imagination Library. They're requesting $5,000. Let's see. I wanted to add that in early 2021, an anonymous donor made a $100,000 donation to the program, and they asked the commissioners, county commissioners, in May for funding for the Rural Schools Grant to be awarded to Imagination Library, and the vote was unanimous to provide financial support for this program. Their mission is to invest in the children of the community by supporting early childhood literacy. And the goal is to provide every child from birth to their 5th birthday an opportunity to receive age-appropriate books chosen by experts in early childhood literacy. And this program enhances home literacy, develops positive attitudes about reading, increased interactions with caregivers and children during reading, increased literary skills, and a greater kindergarten literary readiness. The books are purchased from the Dolly Parton Foundation. And the community partner is responsible for covering postage of $25 per child per year. We believe, or they believe that from the past experience, they could have 600 plus children enrolled in the program at any one time. So that would be $15,000 in postage alone. The state of Colorado covers half that cost. So the Imagination Library is requesting $5,000. I know kids that have been involved in that program, and it's really helped them. I would advocate for the full amount.
We do already have Imagination Library in our 2022 budget for a $6,000 grant. So I don't think that I would be able to support an additional budget bringing it up to $11,000 for the year.
Okay.
I would agree.
Okay.
I think this is one of the best programs we have available to us. I think it's very worthwhile.
Do we know how close they are to the $250,000 goal?
They were at, I believe, like 208 or 207,000.
Can we hear from?
Yeah, I believe we have Karen Sheik in the audience. If we could maybe have her go to the podium, if that pleases the council.
Thank you.
Actually, our latest figures are that we have 213,000 plus. And at this point, we also have 383 children that are registered in the program. That's as of today. Of that, 222, or over 50%, are children that live in Cortez. The goal is to reach 500 children by the end of the year, and I don't see any reason why we won't be able to make that at this point. I think one of the reasons that we applied for this grant, even though the city had already provided us with some funding in your 2022 budget, is that we would really like to see this endowment fully funded. As I indicated in the application, we had to put this program on hiatus for several years because we simply did not have the money to be able to fund it. It was costing us between $10,000 and $15,000 at the time that we had to discontinue it, and we just couldn't. Cortez Rotary is a pretty small group and just didn't have the membership to be able to generate the kind of revenue that we needed. The program is in great demand. In fact, when we had to stop it, there were a number of families that were quite disappointed that we could no longer continue to offer Imagination Library. As I said in the application, this is an investment in our community. The fact that the county has donated in excess of $78,000 is pretty significant. It's taken us a long way in getting us to where we need to be, and I am very much hoping that we'll be able to reach the point. I think those of us that are working really hard to get the funding for the program, our goal is to get it fully funded so that we don't have to come back to donors like the city or the county and ask again. And the only way that we can do that is to get enough money in the account so that we don't draw it down to the point where at some point we're going to have to continue to ask for money, or we'll have to cease having the program.
Karen, does that 213 include the 6,000 that we've budgeted for? for Imagination Library?
I do not believe that I am not sure that it does, Arlena, because we haven't received those funds at this point.
What if we did half?
So I'm going to go out on a limb here and just say that this is the mission as a 27-year-old, 27-year veteran, not 27 years old, I'm almost double that, 27-year-old veteran of education, that it is the thing that will change education in America. It's early literacy. And I think that the best way, the most direct way to do that is to provide books at home for kids before they even get to school, before they get to preschool, kindergarten, et cetera. And just, as an aside, I, personally kind of put my money where my mouth is, and just saying that that was the case. And Rick and I were able to donate like $1,000 for this. That's how strongly we believe in it. We don't have kids. We'll never have kids. But I do know the importance of early childhood education. So I feel as if even though a donation has been made, I would feel comfortable adding to that donation. And again, part of that, I'd say, is the fact that once they have an endowment, that is the function of an endowment, and that they won't, come back. I know Chuck Forth does a really good job, and he has for years. He's proven himself, which is why more organizations go and work with him. So that's kind of where I stand on it. I know that's not necessarily the most popular stance, but I think it is really the thing that is going to make a difference in our community in terms of education.
I have to agree wholeheartedly. I think it's extremely important that we continue this program. We need it.
Have the school systems in Montezuma County made a donation to support Imagination Library?
The school systems have not, Rob. Our school systems in Montezuma County are struggling with their budgets as it is. And so consequently, while they are helping us in making sure that we get the word out to parents, we actually have not gone to them at this point to ask for funding for this. Our sense is that it's not that we necessarily would never do that, but at this point, knowing what the budget situation is for most of our schools, I'd rather us be able to get this funded without having to ask them for limited resources to be able to fund this.
And I'm not sure that they can. I can't think in my 18 years working in the school district so far when they've been able to make a donation to a nonprofit. And just legally, I'm not sure they can, to be honest.
And I think the one thing to keep in mind at this point, too, in our history with the pandemic, we've got lots of kiddos that have fallen significantly behind as a result of being in a situation where they could not be in the classroom. And unfortunately, we may see the virtual teaching on and off throughout this next year. As probably all of you are aware, the school was shut down for 2 weeks, and they just got back into the classroom on Monday. So, whatever we can do in order to help get these kiddos kindergarten ready, I think is really, really important. As I said, this is an investment in our kids. This isn't a donation that I'm coming here hat in hand asking you to give. I'm asking you to invest in your children. And as I think Matt said, this is a significant thing that we can do to help get these children off to the right start. Because if they don't get a good start, I kind of wish Vanjie were here this evening, because one of the things that research has shown is that a significant amount of a child's language skills and reading is developed before they ever even get to school. And if they don't have that when they come to school, many of them are never able to catch up. And so basically they are handicapped from then on. So if we can work with parents, if we can put into the hands of these kiddos, and by the way, the books are addressed to them, so that's another exciting part of this program, is because it comes to that child. If we can give them this resource so that they have a fighting chance, I think what you're doing is have the potential to make a significant change in the lives of a lot of kids in our community.
Can I make a suggestion? Can we come back to this item and see, like, can we go through the other items first? Because we've already funded this specific project through our regular budget. So can we go through the rest of our items and then come back to it with whatever we've got left?
Okay.
Well, can I compromise and do a placeholder of 2,500, half of the ask? Too
Sure.
much?
Yeah,
Okay,
and we'll come back to it.
okay,
Okay.
I'll make it red. Okay.
Okay. Next applicant is Montezuma County Senior Services Area Agency on Aging. Their mission is to provide a warm and welcoming place for elderly population to take part in health and nutrition activities, and to further to ensure the elderly homebound person is provided with the same services in order to live independently in their home for as long as possible. Yep. Let's see, the request is, let's see, it's for a part-time staff, 7 hours per week at $13 per hour times 52 weeks, which comes to $4,732. And that's approximately the ask for this group. 75% of the funds would remain in City of Cortez, 25% for this Montezuma County.
So I certainly had some questions about this. First was, why wasn't this potentially budgeted for in the county budget? And it sounds like, I guess it wasn't. I don't know if it was. I couldn't figure out exactly. But additionally, I was concerned about like the optics of us funding the position of a county, like funding a county position with this grant fund. So I just wanted to put that out there as well.
That's a consideration.
Yeah, I'd agree. It seems a little inappropriate to provide I mean, because the difference is like with the previous one, it's like, is it a youth employee, you know, and providing a job for a youth, but this is just like a employee that should have been budgeted in the senior services budget.
I would agree about that as well. I also had a question just about the mechanics of, I mean, it isn't really a grant, it's more of like an intergovernmental transfer. I mean, I know we donated $750 in previous years, or at least last year, but yeah, my question is just about basically making a donation to Montezuma County.
Yeah, I agree there, because the portion is, like you mentioned, that should be in the county's budget for, on that, I had 0 on that one.
Okay. Any other comments? Just leave this one blank. Okay. Next applicant is Montezuma Food Coalition. Their mission is to provide multi-use space dedicated to all things food-related, including food production, aggregation, processing, storage, distribution, events, and education. They cultivate community collaboration to develop a local food system that benefits all. purpose of their funds, it's pretty well itemized. Website redesign for 1,000, printing from a local print shop 500, participation in Cortez community events 500, print and electronic advertising 1,000, and building signage for 1,000, total of $5,000.
I think they do great work. They really do. I think their impact is pretty broad, and I'm not sure that we know exactly how broad, but I do know that, they're just really dynamic. They operate with a lot of volunteers. They have a lot of families that come, and, when they happen to get a huge shipment of sweet potatoes or whatever, they are able to get the word out. So if this helps them in some way, shape, or form to get the word out and say, hey, we're here and this is what we do, I definitely feel good about donating to them. The full amount, I don't know if that's necessarily appropriate, or if anybody has any other strong feelings about it.
I am curious about their math here, because the breakdown is equals 4,000 instead of 5. I agree that I feel like they provide a huge need in our community, and food is important for health and our economy. So what do we want to start with, half, or do we want to do 4,000, which would be?
I had them down as 4,000 based on the breakdown you mentioned.
Okay.
Just the total not being 5,000, being 4,000 of the breakdown. They do a lot of good food security work in our city and in our community, and I think that's definitely something that the city should support.
Yeah. I would agree with the 4,000 amount.
Okay.
Okay, next applicant is San Juan, let's see. Bosse's. San Juan Bosse's. They're asking $5,000. The mission, San Juan Bosse's, is to build capacity to ensure the personal success of all students. Requested funds would be used to host Discs for DI, a disc golf fundraising tournament now being planned for Centennial Park in Cortez this spring. They're working with Parks and Rec Department from the city of Cortez to host this fundraising event. The hope is to become an annual event that showcases both the Destination Imagination Program and the city of Cortez.
So I don't know if I should recuse myself or not. I've known Sheila Wiaki since for 18 years or so, and I used to take kids as part of the Destination Imagination tournament. But having said that, I was a little surprised to see for a full ask for 5,000. While it's a great program, it doesn't have a super broad impact in terms of the total number of kids that it serves. So it's kind of a specialty program that typically serves kids that are more on the GT end of the spectrum. Just background, having been there.
Thank you. Do we charge them fees for using our facilities, in this type of event?
Likely we would, yes. I'm not familiar specifically with this, and I would have to research that, but likely, yes, we would.
Okay. You don't know how much then that would cost?
I don't.
Okay.
And the way I look at it too is that's a pretty good chunk of money there for the amount of kids they work with. I think that's a little too much.
I do see they have 25% is, you know, affects the city of Cortez, so what if we did like the 1250?
That sounds like a good compromise to me.
Okay.
1250. Any other comments? Next applicant is the School Community Youth Collaborative, SCYC.
I need to recuse myself, Mr. Mayor. I'm
Okay,
currently a part-time employee, AKA seventh grade math tutor with SCYC.
okay. So noted. See, they're asking $5,000. The purpose of the funds is to enhance the current middle and high school programming, including BOTFIN life skills training, youth roots, youth board programs, and the 21st Century Community Learning Centers, 21 CCLC at Montezuma Cortez High School, Southwest Open School, and includes tutoring, Saturday school, credit recovery, summer programming, morning movement classes, Montezuma Youth Pride, art clubs, cooking clubs, Indigenous Peoples Club, think tank, fly fishing, kayaking, and college exploration field trips. They estimate 49% of the funds would be in the city of Cortez, 50% in Montezuma County, and 1% outside of Cortez, Montezuma County.
I had them down as a 50% based on the area served as well.
Yeah, I would agree with the 50%. It's,
Yeah, I also agree, 50%. Okay. Final applicant is SBDC, Southwest Colorado Small Business Development Center. They requested $2,000 last year. We awarded them $1,000. And the mission statement is to help new and small businesses in Southwest Colorado grow and prosper. They're requesting $2,000 in funding to pay members of our SBDC Business Advisor Network to provide consulting to area small businesses and startups.
I know that service can be very helpful to the small and kind of starting entrepreneurs in our community. I had them down for $1,000, which I believe is what we did last year as well.
I agree with that.
That's what I had, 1,000.
Sounds good.
Okay. So what are we up to? 29,250.
So, and we can go up to 36, so we have $6,107, or 1,000, I don't know, $7,000 to play with.
So several of these applicants we put on hold and to return to them, so I guess we can return to them now. See the.
So can I zoom out so we can see?
Yeah.
It's still hard to see all of them, unfortunately. I don't know how to get rid of this window.
Trying to see all of them at once.
There, that's all. No. Okay, 50% it is. Okay. Clear.
can see pretty well, and I can barely see.
I can't read that.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe if you can refresh us. What's the first one had on hold?
The Communities That Care position, for the youth, but it's a county agency. I guess we didn't really decide on that.
Okay.
As someone who isn't a county employee, I do think that the Communities That Care has a really broad impact. So I don't have a problem with $1,500.
1,500 sounds good to me.
Which one was that, Matt?
The Communities That Care, it's
Thank you.
like the second one there.
Okay, we'll keep it as is. Okay, so then the other two in question are the Cortez Chamber, the Imagination Library, really just those two, yeah. And right now, we still have over 6,000 left.
What were the pieces that we were talking about potentially for the chamber?
Okay, let's go back. Definitely the 2,500 for the business center. I don't know if everyone agrees with that, but, and let's see, the other asks were operational support, business scholarship, young professionals, and business training.
Yeah, as I mentioned, I would support the upgrades and equipment for the Downtown Business Resource Center, and I do think we should also, at a later date, readdress the city's membership in the chamber.
Do you know how much, like, our membership used to cost?
We have a list of what those are. I don't know. We have Colton Black here if he wishes to share what those are off the top of his head.
Do you know?
153.
So that would put you at,
What is it per employee?
so it's not per employee, so
Oh.
there's tiers. Pull the tiers here real quick, hang on a second.
Is that the rate?
So that would put you guys at $850 a year just for membership.
Just $850.
If we were looking at just purely just the membership with no other additional. Then I would suggest that we could fund or should fund the chamber for $33.50. That would be the a membership, and I would ask that in future years that come out of this program, and then also to fund specifically that $2,500 technology and equipment for the Business Resource Center.
I would be fine with the 2,500.
I agree with 25.
25 sounds good.
Well, I agree with the $33.50 for including a membership. Mayor?
Okay.
Um,
Any other comments about the amount?
I'd be fine with the membership as well.
Yeah, membership also. So what's the total?
Minus this equals, I just want to see how much we have left to play with. So we have $3,400 left to allocate in this. Yeah, you can sit down. Thanks, Colton.
Thank you.
And Mayor and Council, I've got a little bit more information now that I've had a chance to confer with Mark Boblet on the Cortez Swim Dragons. They told him this morning that they have a $2,500 commitment from another organization for the swim blocks. And, you know, he's under the impression they actually have other monies coming in. So both he and I are a little confused on why they're asking specifically for starting blocks from us. So.
Okay, yeah, so I think we zeroed that out on here.
And just to confirm, since it is a city facility, we are providing the other work, the concrete and that kind of work without any sort of charge, right?
Correct, and there is a small outlay that we'll have, but I mean, it's nominal, it's not a lot. There will be some labor and, you know, $300 to $500 and some concrete work, so.
Okay, what is our remainder funds?
We still have $3,400 to allocate. And that's with me putting half of the $5,000 in Imagination Library. Because I do agree that I think it's a vital program and it's a one-time ask and not a continual ask. And we do have room to increase that to the 5,000 and then, you know, with the additional 6,000 from our budget and say like, this is what we can give you.
Yeah.
And then help with any kind of fundraising you'd have to meet that, you know, 250,000.
Right, yeah.
Could we, has the Friends of the Library made a donation to Imagination Library yet? Could we do the additional portion as like a challenge match to be met by either Friends of the Library or another organization?
Yeah, have you gone to them to ask for this yet? Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to put in, these are books that are sent to the kids. The school district is in a lot of conflict right now. Anything we can do to help our kids, I would support. There are also books that do not require batteries or internet connection. The kids can read them in their rooms and outdoors. I still go with my full funding for that, $5,000.
I do as well, Mike. I would say the full 5,000.
I agree as well.
Okay, so with that, if we do that, we have $900 left.
Isn't it true, Drew, that if something were to come up during the year, I seem to remember that, Matt.
Yeah, that's what I was
I
wondering.
think so, right? Like, we don't necessarily have to spend the 900, but if something were to come up that a nonprofit might need help with throughout the year, that could be used for that. I seem to remember that we've done that in the past. So it might be okay just to kind of sit on the extra 900?
We have in the past. I would think that would be fine.
Okay.
Yeah, there's nothing that says you have to spend anything.
So we'll just keep that in that budget. Okay.
Okay.
And then, Mayor and Council, just for everybody's information, once this is finalized and the council votes upon it, then the checks for this will not be distributed until 2022, so the fiscal year has to roll before we can do that.
Okay, I feel confident and comfortable with the decisions we've come to.
I agree also.
I agree.
Yeah, I think we've come to a good conclusion.
I agree as well.
Okay, this is saved.
Then, Mayor and Council, with your permission, we will take what you've got here, and then we will present you with a resolution next meeting that you can just vote on the package. So that's official and in the public record and voted upon.
All right, thank you. Okay. That concludes our review of community support grants. General council discussion. Are there any topics that the council would like to address?
Yes. Oh, go ahead, Arlene.
Yeah, I've
Go
got a
ahead.
couple. This is thinking way ahead, but I think we need to start considering the prospect of addressing the comprehensive plan. This will be budgeted for 2023, but also I don't know if there's also grants that could be acquired to address that project as well. But the last time that our comprehensive plan was updated was 2008, so it's well near the end of its lifespan, and we'll likely need to do an entire overhaul. So I wanted to put that out there and get our cogs turning on that. And I forgot my other thought, but I'll pass it to Rachel.
Okay, I would agree with Arlena that I think our comprehensive plan needs to be updated, and maybe that's something that we could do in-house, over the next few months or year or whatever. And then I also want to bring up the topic of housing and, recognizing that our country is in a housing crisis, and it is affecting everywhere, including the city of Cortez, even if our housing prices aren't as high as, our neighboring communities. I think maybe one low-hanging fruit is accessory dwelling units, ADUs, and kind of looking at that and where we allow those, and if we want to temporarily allow those in other places or permanently, or I guess, how do we add housing to our agenda?
Well, you're absolutely right, and the problem with housing is we don't have a housing authority or the staff to actually provide housing, but we can enable housing. And you're absolutely right. We actually talked about this today. Our planning department is working on an ordinance to perhaps allow accessory dwelling units, and we see the need for it, and so it's being worked on. But I also think there's a sense of urgency, and I think I can probably help with making sure that that accelerates a little bit.
Okay, yeah, because even if we can have something on the workshop where we all talk about different ideas and approaches and I don't know, just starting those conversations, so,
Okay?
thank you.
And I just wanted to second that. It's something that we've talked about with the county as part of the economic development team. We recognize that the housing shortage in Montezuma County and Cortez it's an economic challenge for our community. It's a challenge to our businesses. And if there's any of the work that we can do to help solve that, whether that's through funding or just making things easier to do, I think we should be working on that.
I agree. We need to look into housing in this area. It's critical.
Could that, if that were a workshop item, could we have Tracy come and talk about some options as well, and maybe even somebody from the state, from DOLA or from anywhere else? I'm thinking about my planning teacher right now, and she's our regional representative. But
Yeah, absolutely, we can. Whether we can get somebody from the state or not, I mean, I don't know, we will try very hard, but absolutely, Tracy's already on this, and she's our resident expert on it, so absolutely, and we'll get this in front of you.
one other question that I had was about the streetlight fixtures.
Oh.
Yeah, just throwing a whole bunch of stuff at you today. Are the city streetlight fixtures LED or not?
They are LED. In fact, all of our, the street, or the city streetlights that we're in charge of are dark sky compliant. They are LED, and we've done everything we can do. The only other thing we might consider doing is more on our actual buildings, specifically this one. You know, we'd have to take a little closer look at that. The rest of the streetlights that are not necessarily dark sky compliant are run by, I believe, Empire Electric. So, but that's outside of our wheelhouse and what we can do.
Okay, thank you.
Just one footnote on there. Could we bring those lights into the 21st century? They seem to be so out of date. I'm just
The
curious.
streetlights?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, the city-owned streetlights are relatively new and at least have the LED lighting. The other so-termed outdated lighting, that does not belong to the city.
Who does it belong to?
I believe Empire Electric is responsible for those.
Okay, thank you.
Any other council comments? If not, I adjourn this meeting. We'll reconvene at 7:30 for the regular agenda.